Welcome to the Stage Resource. I'm Joseph Dodd, and I'm introducing tonight John Garcia. Not only has John performed in over 400 productions as an actor, he is also the founder, editor, and senior chief theater critic of The Column, a national online publication that reviews theater all around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, both equity and non-equity. But John is not alone in reviewing all this theater. The Column now has a staggering staff of 21 associate theater critics. John reviews many of the national tours. He also reviews Broadway productions and even pre-Broadway tryout shows, most recently, Moulin Rouge the Musical. The Column sends out a weekly issue with all the latest auditions, reviews, and news within the DFW area. Finally, John is the founder and executive director/producer of the Column Awards, which honors excellence in theater both to equity and non-equity theater in the DFW area. The yearly gala serves as a fundraiser for Broadway Cares and Equity Fights AIDS. The Column Awards is the only awards organization in the United States that does this, which will celebrate their 20th gala anniversary on Sunday, February 29th, 2019 at the Irving Arts Center. The Column Awards Board of Directors are feverishly gearing up for this big night. And if you're involved in theater in the area, your life has been affected in some way by John Garcia.
I'm so sorry.
Well, welcome here tonight, John.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I've heard about you pretty much ever since I started theater in the DFW area.
I'm so sorry again.
I assure you, it's no inconvenience on my life. So, since you've been around in the area for so long, what was the first thing that drew you to theater, like in your youth, maybe?
It was when I was about 8. I was one of my best friend at that time. His mom made him. We were swimming at a swimming pool, and his mom made him go audition for summer stock, and I tagged along. And when he was auditioning, it was for Oliver, and I was just sitting in the audience, and we were both in choir. And his mom said, "Well, you got to go audition." I was just sitting there watching him, and the director was way up. It's an amphitheater, and his director was behind me. I was just sitting there, saying, "Can we go? I want to go swimming." And the director goes, you down there. And I just went, and back then I was like a real chubby kid. And he goes, do you sing? And I went, uh-huh. And he goes, go up there and sing. And he goes, just sing anything. So I sang Happy Birthday. And that did it. And I mean, I was in the wings and I got hooked. Just like everybody in theater got hooked. And I was this round, milk-dugged little brown kid in the wings, just hooked on it. And it was that bug. It just snapped in me, and obsessed with it.
Yeah, theater is one of those things that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and to be part of something like that is really addictive.
It is, and the artistic director, I thank God that he noticed it in me at such a young age, and he went, when you go back to your elementary school, tell your teacher that you want voice lessons. I went, voice lessons? Voice lessons. Okay. So I did, and thank God that he did that in me, and that just started the ball rolling, and I got more and more, and that started it. And every summer, I did summer stock and just took, he said, just take every show, learn your craft. And I did, and I would just stand in the wings, and just every classic musical that they did, he'd always cast me in the chorus, and I picked up and learned. And even though I stood out like a sore thumb. I mean, you're doing Carousel, and here comes, this little brown kid. Like, I know, I just stuck out. And it's funny because my mother would come see the show. She goes, "Now, will I notice you?" It's like, "Trust me, you'll notice me." Like, you can't miss it. It's like, oh, there he is. So.
Well, sometimes it's those parts where you can shine out the best. Oftentimes when I go to theater productions, I do watch the chorus members, and usually there's one chorus member that just kind of catches my eye and is a little bit just like more enthusiastic, or hits the beats the right way, that just makes you laugh, and they steal the show sometimes.
I always tell that. I always say that now when I review shows. It's like, it's the ensemble that will always, they can either make or break a show.
Mm-hmm. The Greeks knew it.
That's true.
Yeah. So with all this theater experience that you've gotten all the way from eight years old, what is the craziest unplanned thing? People always talk about this. What is the craziest unplanned thing that happened during a live performance that you've been in?
I would say that was probably when I was at Disney, because I was at Disney for almost 2 years. And we had so many rapid changes, and we're on tracks. Back then we were on tracks, and you had to learn all these tracks over and over again. And sometimes they would forget to tell us which ones we were on because we would change so fast, show after show. And at that time we were doing America the Musical, and sometimes you were a face, which means they could see your face, and sometimes you were a character, and they forgot to tell me which one I was, and I was supposed to be a face, but then I was a chipmunk, and I got so confused that I almost went on stage with a chipmunk head, but the body of a human. And then literally, I was almost halfway around the castle, and they literally grabbed me because I was like body of a human and the body of a chipmunk. What the hell are you doing? And they could hear the voice of the chipmunk, and I was like, what? And it was like so confused. It was like, oh, what the hell are you doing? It's like, well, I was like, you're doing this part, but this part. It was like, it was like, well, traumatize the children. So.
But I mean, those Disney shows, they're so hectic.
They are. And
so many people coming on and off at the same time. It's just like a flurry.
It is. It's hectic.
That is. Okay. Here's one, which I'm very interested in. So, you do a lot of stuff in theater. From administrative to acting to, directing and criticizing. So with all these different hats, where and when do you feel most fulfilled in theater? Just as a person, when are you most relaxed and happy? When you're at a show, maybe watching a show, jotting down notes maybe, or
when I see new talent, when I see a performer that I've not seen before, and that is when I not discover new talent, but when I see new talent, and that always freshens me up. Like it brings that new spark of, that's good. Or when I see a performer that I've seen before, and they bring something new to the table.
Okay.
That I love when you see actors that are in town, they do show after show after show. You want to see something new.
That makes
sense. If I see them do show after show after show, and if they don't bring something new, then you're going, okay, well now you're on repeat. You're on repeat here, and you're kind of going, okay. And I can't think of how to put it in a new way in my writing, but if I see that performer, that actor or actress, that comes in a completely new character that completely floors me, then I can write forever, which of course drives people crazy. But that's when I'm like blown away. That's when I'm like, this is why I do this. And when somebody new comes into town and completely blows me away. And same thing with directing and design. It's refreshing. It rejuvenates me when I see either side, new people and returning and performers.
So that brings up an interesting question. Do you think that it might be one of the best highlights of a theater professional that no matter what production that he's in, he or she might always be able to bring something new to the table that you didn't see in a last performance or a last show?
Totally.
Okay.
I always believe that no matter if you've done, 200, 300 shows, you can always bring something new if they do their homework.
You've got to have the creativity, right?
They do. If you're just going from show to show, and if you don't bring something new, then a subscriber to the season is not going to pick that up, but the hardcore theater community will. And they're going to go, great show, but those that really know the craft are going to go, okay, well...
We saw that before.
We saw that before.
Yeah.
I want you to bring, you're bringing the same old shtick, the same old routine. And, I mean, they're going to say great show, but come on, bring something new. Bring something that's going to make you want to go, wow, there you go.
Yeah. Something that earns the passion of the audience, for sure.
So they can say there you go. Yeah. That's the craft.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, so looking at the difference between something that's been done before, even maybe if it's in a new play, or something that's an old play, but maybe it's done a different way, and seeing that through the eyes of a critic, what response to that would be the response of like a good critic, and then what response would be a bad critic?
What do you mean?
So like what does it mean to be a good critic when you're viewing theater? You know, like there's obviously bad critics and good critics.
Funny you brought that. I saw a fellow critic in the lobby the other. Funny you said. I saw a fellow critic in the lobby the other night, and we talked about that. You can't fault an actor or an actress for the way they look. You know, it's not the fault of them for their skin color, for the physical appearance of that sort. I think that is completely vile and disgusting.
Yeah, maybe not even for their costume.
No, that's true. You can blame the costumer. You can't blame. I think that is just wrong. You know,
absolutely.
The director cast them for a reason, and you can't go, well, I didn't find them attractive. I thought their weight or whatever. Well, you can't do that. That just goes beyond. That's not your role as a critic.
Yeah.
You critique their acting, their singing, their dancing, their emotions. Because they can take that whether they like it or not. Because I believe this is America. You have the right to, as much as I have the right to critique a show, you have the right to voice that you didn't like the review. That's the great thing of this country.
Yeah.
So, however, the thing is that people can take a critique that a critic says, well, they can improve this, and they can. You can if they said, well, you went sharp here, you didn't belt here, I didn't feel the compassion here. You can work on that.
Yeah.
That's what you can fix as an actor. You can't fix, well, I wasn't attractive enough. You can't fix that. Not plastic surgery or yes, you can lose weight. You can't change your skin color. You know, you can't fix things that way. You know, this is the way, whatever faith you believe in, that's who made you.
Yeah.
And it's so wrong for a critic to do that. I find that completely wrong. So this is the body that you were given when you were born. Everything else inside, your talent, that's what you work with. And if a critic can tell you, well, I didn't feel what you were presenting on stage, or I didn't think you gave all your vocal instrument out, that you can fix. Whether you didn't like it or not, you can still go into your dressing room and go, okay, wait, I don't believe you. I'm going to prove you wrong. And that's what you can do.
So you would say that a critic is more geared towards maybe sharpening the craft of the theater that he reviews rather than just being PR.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, I think, you know, and it's kind of good and bad. You know, the critic goes on one night, and, you know, and you've got one night to impress that critic, which is bad, you know, bad and good. And, you know, things will go right. It's live theater, which is great. It's live theater. It's not television. It's not film.
It's going to be different every night.
It's going to be different every night. One of the greatest examples is when I went to go review the pre-tryout of Moulin Rouge. I saw it back to back, a matinee and an evening. And, I mean, I got to see experience of two different audiences, and it was mind-blowing of how they reacted. And it was like, oh, I got to experience it two different ways. And it was so engrossing to see how the audience reacted and the numbers just differently. So it gave me a whole new perspective of how, okay, so you didn't like it, but they liked it. It was just like, okay, it really, especially one big number.
Yeah.
So, you know, they just, you know, you just got to go with, this is the way we got it this night. And then the very next night, that audience may go completely different on you.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about live theater as well, as opposed to, you know, film, is that the actors also play off of the audience.
Exactly.
So the audience changes every night. So in some way you get a different show every night in that way as well.
Exactly, because, I mean, the preview audience may be howling and down on the floor laughing at everything you're doing. And on the night the critic is there, there's dead silence on all the laugh lines. And it's rough. But you got to keep on going as though they were laughing.
Especially in a city such as Dallas or Fort Worth, there's so much theater going on. Critic can't afford to stay 2 nights.
No.
Oh man. So okay. So here's something that's very interesting in the world of theater critics. Today, when there's so many theater critic blogs online, film shows and the such about theater, reviewing theater, it's very common for theater professionals like actors and directors to be doing this sort of stuff. But back when you founded the column, it was a little bit of a different story. Did you get any backlash for hiring theater professionals as critics?
Well, when I really came into this whole thing completely by total accident. I mean, I'm an actor. That's what I started at an early age. That's what my degree is in. That's what I've done my whole life. I mean, I've grinded. I haven't been on stage in 5 years, but that's what I call myself first. I just fell into this by accident, complete accident. Since college, friends have always said, I like the way you tell me what I thought of the show. You should put that on paper. That started the whole thing. And when, the computer began, we had a little group of friends that we talked on the computer. It was a little gang of us. And somebody said, you should put this online. That started the whole thing. And I wrote a little blurb about somebody's show in our group. That started it. Somebody shared it with someone, and it just grew. I never meant for anything to go past that. And it just went on, and it just started from blog, and it exploded. And I never meant for it to go to where it has gone today. I never ever meant for it to go into the waters of the other critics around in our metroplex.
Okay.
When I knew that I had went into their territory was when who's no longer reviewing because he retired, a prominent critic in our area saw me at intermission at a national tour here and said, "Can I speak to you?" And I respect this man immensely. And took me aside and goes, "I think you're a wonderful actor. I review you all the time." I said, "Yes, sir. But it's wrong for an actor to review theater." And this is still in my beginning years. And I was like, oh, well, I'm just doing it for fun. He goes, "Well, I think it's wrong."
Wow.
And I go, "Oh, okay. But I was having fun, so I kept on doing it. And another critic said, "If you want to be taken serious, you need to take journalism classes now. Your syntax, your grammar, your spelling, it sucks." So I spent 2 years taking a bunch of journalism classes and kept on. And then as the internet bursted, and when I mean we, I mean other critics around us online critics really became now I hate saying this, but it's true because it's the evidence is there now. When we really became a force, such as in other cities in the nation, like Chris with Onstage in New York now, and then Talking Broadway. When I actually joined, I was asked to join Talking Broadway, which I did, and I was with Chris at Onstage as well in New York. I mean, we were all over, and it started just getting bigger and bigger. And it just became, because what I didn't realize was once we started growing into these other cities, we were taking away advertising from the newspapers and from the weekly magazines. And I stupidly was going, I don't know what you're talking about. Because and I still am not making a profit whatsoever. I don't make a dime from all this. From the 30 years of the column, almost 30 years, and 20 years of the column wars, I've yet to make a single dime from this.
Wow.
Not a dime. I don't advertise it. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I feel that's wrong. I don't believe in making money from the art. And it just I didn't think of that. It never dawned on me to do that. So it started causing the friction, and and then I find it odd that now other online, I took away the word blog and just said we're now an online publication. That's what we are. We're not a blog anymore, because I don't blog. Almost 30 years now, quotes from my own reviews have now been put on national tours publicity. My quotes have been used in the LA Times for We Were Rocking National Tour. And right now, one of my quotes is used on Broadway. And a lot of national tour actors and Broadway actors, they use some of my quotes on their websites. So I mean, I don't know what else can be said. I think I'm a critic, so it's and I've got all this. So I mean, it's just weird that all that we're not on a publication, but now I have a staff that have work in both fields actively. But now other publications, not only in the Metroplex, but all over, you can see it on their bios all over the nation. They have actively working people, both in front and behind the curtain, that are critics. And no one has a problem with it. But when I started, I was crucified. I was crucified. Who the F does he think he is? Who the hell do you think you are? You're an actor and you're a critic? Wannabe critic? It was rough. It was rough.
It almost seems like a point of view that's been derelict and brought into that era by some of the medieval mindset of actors are just like the lowliest form of people, and it's really like the ability that go see the theater and or judge it.
Well, the odd part is that in all truth, we all are critics, because everybody goes to shows. What did you do in the car? What did you think of the show? Well,
exactly.
It was like, come on. You're in the line going, what do you think? It's like, come on.
Yeah, we all think that way. So, the column has come so far, like you said, from where you just started with your small group of friends. And now that it is where it is, like you said, with all these taglines in so many different venues and even in Broadway, what do you have planned for the future of the column?
I don't know. We are my website team. We are, because I really do, not for me. I really want to pay my staff in some way. So we're looking at that, of some way of doing ad space on our website of some sort. But we're trying to figure out how to make it ethically right. That's what I'm trying to say. I knew my brain would click on. I'm trying to make it ethically right. But I want to pay my staff in some way. Because, my staff of critics and my website team are great. Because all of it is all volunteer. I've got 25 critics. 21, a website designer, a website assistant, and it's all volunteer, and I want to give back to them because they're all great, and bless their hearts, because if it wasn't for them, that's the great thing that I'm so proud of, is that we're able to review all over. We do what no other publication has done. We go everywhere, to the smallest theater, because I feel like every theater should be reviewed, and they want to. They want, and
yeah.
that's great. The biggest theater with all the bells and whistles, they get reviewed by the big publications, and the small theaters get left out, and I don't think that's fair.
Especially since some of the best theater can be found there.
Thank you. I think it's only fair. I strongly believe, my strong belief is theater is theater. Mm-hmm. I've seen the best in the smallest places, and I've been moved in the smallest places. I've been moved in the biggest places as well.
Yeah. And especially personally, I've acted in a couple of different venues of various sizes. Mm-hmm. And more often, I have a lot more joy in small theaters. The casts are tighter, you bond more, and you just have a lot more fun with the performance rather than this kind of, not like pressure, but like kind of it is a pressure. Mm-hmm. Like it's pressure to kind of like be perfect and just kind of actually perform in front of people as opposed to just acting and like being the character, which is different. Mm-hmm. So with everything that you have experienced with the column as it grew over all this time, and everything that's kind of happened to you, would you have, if you go back now to when you just had that small group of friends, would you have told them to stop sharing it, or would you have let this happen? Let the column become what it is today?
Would I have done with everything that I have? Did I know now what I've done the column and the column awards again?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I can't tell you, but because of what has happened in the last 2 months, let me say first and foremost, will always be thankful and very, very grateful for the money that we raised with the column awards, all the money that we raised for Broadway Cares. I will always, first and foremost, be grateful for the money we raised. We help people in need, and I will always be grateful for that. But because of what's happened in the last 2 months, I gotta say no.
Wow.
A lot has happened in the last 2 months that I feel that I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I felt that I failed of what I was supposed to achieve. And it wasn't supposed to be what it was supposed to be. There's goodness in both. There's goodness in both. But the hardness and the tough ones, they take a toll. And the last two on both sides remind me of the cruelty and how mean sometimes people can be. I don't understand it. I wish I did. And I'm sure if you ask me this question on the night, when I hope you'll come, on the night of the award, as my guest, on the night of the awards, I'll probably be in a different mood, because every year I look out on stage and I'm reminded and see happy people. and the goal is to unite the community for one night. But I didn't know that sometimes that some people, it just gets harder and harder. So I just didn't expect it to be so hard.
Yeah, it's all right. Don't
therapy 101.
Don't be afraid. Yeah. Especially when you have gotten to the point where the column is so prolific and you have these big events, you do, excuse the train.
Oh.
You are close to the center of a lot of things that are happening in the Dallas-Fort Worth communities, in the theater communities. So the combination of those both being in the heart of that and having the prestige that you have, even though you're not making any money, the column still carries a lot of prestige. You're bound to be sort of a big epicenter of drama, to say the word.
Good word. Good word.
So with that said, why, if I was someone who was maybe considering moving to a big city to pursue theater, why would I choose the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex over, say, Chicago or New York?
Oh. It's we have an incredible variety of level of theater that you can begin your base to begin your work. Whatever level your talent is at, that you can know, well, okay, where's my level of talent at? Am I already at a level where I can work in the bigger arenas already? And by not my arena, I don't mean like arena in the city, but arena,
right.
Like, am I at this level that I can already go there, or do I need to, start getting my feet more and get my groundings in smaller venues and understand the craft?
Yeah. And
then start building into the bigger venues, and then get that base, and then okay, now I know where I'm at, because that's the excellent field of where I know where I can work, where I can get, work with this director, because there are great directors. There are some of the best directors in this area that can teach you what I learned from this director, and they can help you mold you. But not just mold you in their way, but mold you in one craft. And then this one can mold you in this craft. And then there's some directors that have the great vision of musical theater. And there are directors that have the great vision of dramatic and comedy. I mean, there's directors that have that great, vision. And you go to them, it's like, well, I know that director knows everything about comedy. That's where I'm going. And that's where you learn it. And then you go to that one, because there are some that you go, oh, no, that's not the one. Then you go to that one, because that's the one that you want to go to. Because when you see that on the auditions at the column, you can see and go, that's the director I want. Because if that director is directing that comedy, you want that one, because that you will learn everything you want. And that's what the city has, both Dallas and Fort Worth. Because that's the great thing about this community, is that it mingles. It all, we're a big metroplex, but we're not small, but we're just intertwined. Everybody is intertwined, big and small. It's big, and I just went this past Saturday to go see a theater company that I've never seen before, which is Family Music Theater. Never been there before, and talk about, again, surprise, a gem. They didn't use these, and I mean, blew my mind. Vocal, incredible ensemble. Never saw any of that cast ever in my life, ever.
Wow.
And I mean, hello. I mean, an amazing cast with vocals. I mean, floored me. Again, a gem that just, a theater I've never seen. and they've been here, I don't know how long. And again, that's what I mean. Is that like you just go everywhere and you just keep on finding all these theaters, and we have so many, both equity and non-equity. You just go and go and go, and you can learn from all that because we're so wide and vast.
Yeah, and there's great talent at every level.
Oh, there's so much.
Yeah,
There
from
is so
everything
much.
that the AT&T people bring in to all the way down to
all the way, yeah, all the way down there. To all the way to smaller venues.
Exactly.
And that's great. And that's why what I love with AT&T when they did Hairspray, that so much of the cast was from here. It was like, it was like, yay! We saw all of our locals in it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna end on a little bit of a serious note. The last question here. So,
Are we going to talk about Trump?
while politics is somewhat of theater and drama,
No, really?
at the heart of it, but I think we'll stay a little bit away from that. This is the stage resource, not the podium resource. Since there is a lot of opportunity for people to come to DFW and participate in theater at every level, say if you're just starting out in theater, you don't even know if you're any good, you can go to a small production, maybe get cast, and then let a director hone you and tell you, hey, you've got a lot of potential, and then direct you where else you can start growing it, right? There's been a lot of talk about different playwrights and directors who will, due to either cultural times or just the aim of what they're doing, will have a big whitewash cast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of I'm not sure what the word is. There's a lot of kind of conception and perception into the community of Dallas theater and definitely in today's day and age, race is definitely a topic, right? So would you say that there are more opportunities, and would you say that there are maybe less or more racial tensions in the Dallas theater community than there were maybe when you started?
I would say, I'll be honest with you, I would say it would depend on the director, and it depends on the director, it's getting there. It's getting there. Non-traditional casting, I mean, it still has its goods and its bad days. You know, you had the huge controversy this past summer at the Muni with when they had the big blowout with Jerome Robbins Broadway, and then last season with North Shore with Evita. There's still that there's that tradition. I mean that issues with non-traditional casting. There was of course, you know, everybody talks about, well, you have Lin-Manuel Miranda and Hamilton. Well, he wrote it. There's a big difference, people. He wrote it. So he wrote it. He could cast whoever he wanted, but
including himself.
Including himself. I mean, hello. It depends on, you know, if the director will go that way. You know, there are some directors that have no blinders with that issue and will go with what he wants. One director who is brilliant with that, has no problem with that, and always goes with what he wants and goes with non-traditional casting, is Bruce Coleman, who's a brilliant director, one of the best, I think. He goes with non-traditional casting. When he did the original premiere of Spelling Bee,
fantastic play,
at Theater 3, he cast me as Barfay. This doesn't look like Barfay whatsoever, and I was for it. And I mean, I will always be grateful for that. You know, but for every Bruce Coleman, there are other directors who would never go that route. In other case, I mean, but it just depends on the theater and the director. It's tough. There's not, and mind you, I have not been in the field in the battlefield in 5 years, so I'm trying to think of who I've seen Latino. I've seen a few Latinos. I've seen a few Asians, and I've seen a few African Americans in shows. But in principal roles, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. To be honest, it's tough because, I'm sure there are, but there needs to be a lot more diversity. There can always be a lot more diversity in our casting decisions here. I believe there can always be more. When I first started here, there was a good 10 of us Latino Hispanic actors. Brian Gonzalez, Sergio Garcia, myself, and 8 others. And Brian now, of course, is now on Broadway doing Aladdin. Hello, hello. So there are outstanding actors of color in our acting pool. Amazing, phenomenal actors of color. It's just trying to persuade the production table to go with these actors. It's just taking that risk of, not risk, but just going in that route. It's just where the audiences go with it. And I in today's age, I think they would. It's just take that risk. What angers me more is when you do these shows like West Side Story or others in which you don't see Hispanics are not being in West Side Story. And you're kind of going, huh? And you're a little confused.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me. And that's where you get even more irritated. It's just that, and there was a college that recently got into a lot of trouble for doing West Side Story, and they cast all Caucasians is it the Sharks? And it was like, what? So
yeah, that's very strange.
Yeah, so it's that. I had dinner with a friend of mine who was in my dorm in University of North Texas, and he is not in theater. He was a business major. Ooh.
I was also a business major, by the way. Business and drama.
I will pray for you.
Thank you.
And he had a delayed flight, and he said, "Hey, I'm here. Let's have dinner." I said, "Sure." And he doesn't live here in Texas, and he actually asked me. I never thought of this, and this actually goes with what you're asking. He asked me, didn't he? Say, "I always wanted to ask you this because we keep up with each other via Facebook. You live in a red state, and you are leading 2 big organizations here, but you're Hispanic. Do you face any backlash, or do you have any problems because you lead this?" And I never thought of that, and it never dawned on me about that. It never occurred to me. And I said, no, it never dawned on me. And with the horrible tragedy that happened yesterday in Pittsburgh, I thought of our interview today. And even though I got a little bit emotional, I will say one thing about the theater community. And, I did a show in Pittsburgh, and I've worked in Boston, and I did a lot of theater in Florida, and I did it, and also in Oklahoma. I will say one thing about the Dallas-Fort Worth theater community, for sure. And that's one thing I treasure deeply. And in theater people in general, and everyone will say this, is that regardless of skin color, religion, who you love, whatever political line you belong to, we don't care. It dawned on me that no one cares. I've noticed through all my years in theater, I've had friends who are Republican, Jewish, whatever, and it never dawned that we've never had that problem. Even now, I have friends who are Republican. One of my best friends is Republican. We don't care. And that's all that should matter.
Absolutely.
And I realized that I've never had that issue of what I do, that I've never confronted, that's never been an issue. That, no. No, I told my friend, no, that's never, no. And he went, wow. He goes, no.
I think that's very important.
No.
Yeah.
They make fun of me about the glitter, but other than that, that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, we're all here in the Dallas DFW area. We're here to be artists.
Exactly.
We're not here to be ideologues or to judge each other.
No.
And the art is what is important.
Exactly. It's the art. It's making people come into the dark and just enjoy what we do on stage. That's it.
Well, thank you so much, John.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming to this interview.
Sure, no problem.
And being so profound for it.
Oh, thank you.